Sup guys, welcome back. So today we're going to solve some rational inequalities. If you haven't watched the quadratic inequalities one, I suggest you do that first. Otherwise this might be a bit difficult. But if you're ready, let's get into it. Okay, so here we've got 1 over x is greater than 2. So whenever we solve these, we always want one side equal to 0. So let's do that. 1 over x minus 2 is greater than 0. The next thing we want to do when we do these questions is we want to make one fraction out of that. So in other words, we want to have one denominator. Now 1 over x minus 2, so the lowest common denominator of that will just be x. That will stay as 1. You'll have to multiply 2 by x to keep that balance, and that's greater than or equal to 0. Let's just clean it up a bit. 1 minus 2x over x is greater than or equal to 0. Now once you're at this step, what you want to do is you want to look at the numerator and the denominator separately and solve for as though they were equal to 0. Okay, now I know the denominator can't be 0, but we're just going to pretend for that sake until we get to the actual question. So here you're going to have 1 minus 2x is equal to 0, and here you'll have x is equal to 0. Now solving 1 minus 2x equals 0 is 1 is equal to 2x, x will be 1 on 2, and x is equal to 0. So once you've done that, you want to whip up a number line real quick. 0 and a half. And what we want to do is we want to test these regions. We want to test regions which is less than 0. We want to test regions which is between 0 and a half, and also regions bigger than 1/2. And all we want to know is whether or not the numerator will be positive or negative, the denominator will be positive or negative, because in order to have a number bigger than 0, or equal to bigger than 0, we need both of these to be a positive number. So let's get testing. So let's say we test a number which is less than 0, let's say minus 1. Now if I put in minus 1 here, I'm going to have 1 minus 2, which will be 1 plus 2. That's a positive number. In the denominator, I'll have just negative 1. A positive and negative make a negative, and a negative is not greater than or equal to 0. So it is not in that region there. All right, let's test between 0 and a half. So what's in between there? Let's say 1/4. Okay, so 1 minus 2 times 1/4. Now what's 2 times 1/4? 2 times 1/4 is a half. So I'm going to have 1 minus a half, which is a positive number. And in the denominator, I'm just going to plug in 1/4, which is also a positive number. Now 2 positives make a positive, which is greater than or equal to 0. So I'm going to give that middle part a tick. Now, last part to test, any number greater than a half. So let's say 5. So 1 minus 2 times 5 is 10. That's going to be a negative. If I put in 5 here, that's going to be a positive. A negative and a positive make a negative. So that's not greater than or equal to 0. So I give a cross there. So finally, you can see my region is going to be between 0 and a half. So I can write my final solution. So x is less than a half and greater than 0. Now, I just realized I've changed this question up. It was always greater than. So let me fix that up. Now, just one thing to be careful of when you do these questions is the denominator, remember, can never be 0 because that's undefined. So this should never be equal to. All right, let's have a look at this example. X squared minus 5 over x is less than minus 4. So once again, we want to get one side equal to 0. So x squared minus 5 over x plus 4 is less than 0. So once you've got this step where one side is equal to 0, let's make one denominator by doing the lowest common denominator. So this, once again, will be x on the bottom. So this will stay x squared minus 5. Now this will be x on the bottom, but 4x on the top, which is less than or equal to 0. Let's simplify the numerator. So x squared plus 4x minus 5 all over x is less than or equal to 0. Now hopefully you can see the numerator is going to be some trinomial quadratic where we can factorize. So PSF, my product's minus 5, my sum is 4. So two numbers that multiply to give 5 will be 5 and minus 1. So x plus 5, x minus 1 all over x is less than or equal to 0. So let's have a look here. You're going to have 3 different brackets x plus 5, x minus 1 over x. So you can have 3 solutions we're going to work with. So let's move this over a bit. So I'm going to have x is equal to minus 5, x is equal to 1, and x is equal to 0. So let's quickly do a number line again. Okay, I've got minus 5, 0, and 1. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 regions to test. Okay, so let's do it. All right, let's choose a number less than 5. So let's say minus 6. Now, if I put in minus 6 in here, minus 6 plus 5 is going to be negative. Minus 6 minus 1 is going to be negative. And if I put in minus 6 at the bottom, well, that's also going to be negative. So 3 negatives make a negative, which is less than or equal to 0. So let's give that a tick. Okay, so a number between minus 5 and 0, let's say minus 1. So if I put in minus 1 plus 5 is positive. Minus 1 is going to be negative. And then minus 1 just at the bottom is also going to be negative. So these 2 negatives make a positive. With that positive, makes 2 positives, which is not less than or equal to 0. So give that a cross. Let's test between 0 and 1. So 0 and 1, let's say 0 or 1 half. Half plus 5 is positive, half minus 1 is going to be negative, and a half on the bottom is also going to be negative. So these 2 negatives make a positive with a positive, so that is going to be overall positive, which is not less than or equal to 0. So also give that a cross. So testing a half, let's say I put half plus 5 is positive, right? 5 and a half. A half minus 1 will be negative because 1's bigger than a half. And then just a half at the bottom, that's also going to be positive. So 2 positives will remain positive, plus the negative will be negative. So negative is less than or equal to 0. So give that a tick. And finally, testing something bigger than 1, let's say 2. So 2 plus 5 is positive. 2 minus 1 is also positive, and 2 at the bottom is also positive. So 3 positives make a positive, and that's not less than or equal to 0. Give that a cross. So you can see my regions will be this, and also in between here. So I can write x is less than minus 5, and x is less than 1 and greater than 0. Done. Okay, last question here. So 3x plus 1 over x minus 4 is greater than 1/3. Okay, so once again, first step is to make one side equal 0. 3x plus 1, x minus 4 minus 1/3 is greater than or equal to 0. Once you've done that, let's make one denominator. So the lowest common denominator will be 3 bracket x minus 4, 3 bracket x minus 4. I'll need to times this top fraction by 3. And I'll need to times the top fraction of the second fraction to be x minus 4, which is greater than or equal to 0. Now let's expand and make one fraction just to tie this up. So expanding this out, you'll have 9x plus 3 minus x plus 4, be careful that negative, over 3 bracket x minus 4 is greater than or equal to 0. Let's collect like terms. So 9x minus x is 8x, 3 plus 4 is 7, over 3 outside of x minus 4 is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so here you can see you've got the top numerator and also the bottom bit in brackets where we can solve as though they were equal to 0. So let's do this up here. 8x plus 7 equals 0. X is equal to minus 7 over 8. Or x minus 4 equals 0, x is equal to 4. So that 3 here doesn't matter because it's not going to change anything. So they're my 2 things I need to test. So once again, draw up a number line. Minus 7 over 8 and 4. We're going to have 3 regions, 1, 2, 3. So what's a number smaller than minus 7 over 8? Let's say minus 2. All right, so let's put in minus 2 here. So minus 2 times 8 is minus 16 plus 7. That's going to be a negative. Minus 2 minus 4 is going to be also a negative. It's minus 6. So 2 negatives make a positive, which is greater than or equal to 0. So that is going to work. Okay, let's test between minus 7 over 8 and 4, let's say 0. So 0 times 8 is 0, plus 7 is a positive. 0 minus 4 is going to be a negative. A positive and a negative make an overall negative, which is not greater than or equal to 0. So give that a cross there. And then finally, a number bigger than 4, let's say 5. So 8 times 5 is 40, plus 7 is positive. 5 minus 4 is also a positive, and a positive make a positive, which is greater than or equal to 0. So that has to be true. So therefore, x is less than, right? Less than or equal to minus 7 over 8. But x is greater than 4, because remember, the denominator can never be 0. So this can never be 4. All right, I hope that helped. Once again, the more practice you do, the better you get at these. So just take your time in testing. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.